By 1960, West Virginia had more than 100 active coal counties funneling millions of tons of coal out of the Appalachian Mountains every year. Families in the hollows of Logan, McDowell, and Mingo counties built their lives around the mine shift. A husband gone before dawn, a house without central heat, a garden on whatever flat ground the mountain gave up. The food that came out of those kitchens was shaped by that reality. Nothing bought that could be grown. Nothing wasted that could be stretched. Pots of beans on the stove before sunrise, apple slices drying on screens in September. 10 dishes came out of those hollows and coal camps that most of America has never tasted and most West Virginians no longer make. Hit subscribe because this is a food tradition that deserves to be remembered. Number 10. Soup beans and cornbread. Every household in the southern coal fields kept dried pinto beans in the pantry. They cost almost nothing, stored for years, and fed a family of 6 from a single pound. A ham hock or a chunk of fatback went into the pot in the morning. The beans went in dry, covered with cold water and simmered for 4 to 6 hours. The fat from the pork worked through every bean in the pot. Cornbread cooked alongside in a cast iron skillet greased with lard. A thin batter of cornmeal, buttermilk, egg, and baking soda. West Virginia cornbread had no sugar in it. The cornbread went onto the plate, the beans went over it, and a raw onion sat alongside. Families in McDowell County ate this combination at least 4 days a week throughout the 1960s. Number 9. The pepperoni roll. In 1927, Giuseppe Argiro opened the Country Club Bakery in Fairmont, West Virginia. Argiro was an Italian immigrant from Calabria who watched miners carry bread and sticks of cured pepperoni into the shaft separately. He baked the pepperoni directly into the bread dough instead. The fat melted during baking and soaked into the crumb from the inside. The roll came out orange-stained and oily at the center, soft on the outside. The original rolls sold for about 45 cents a dozen. They needed no refrigeration, survived hours in a lunch bucket, and could be eaten with one hand in the dark. By the 1960s, every bakery from Clarksburg to Morgantown made its own version. The roll spread through the state until it was sold at gas stations, school cafeterias, and corner groceries across West Virginia. It is now considered the unofficial state food. Number 8. Leather breeches. In August and early September, families across the West Virginia mountains pulled heirloom green beans from the garden, often a variety called greasy beans, and strung each pod through with a needle and sewing thread until the string held 3 or 4 feet of beans. The strings hung from the ceiling of the porch or from the kitchen rafters for 6 weeks until the pods dried to hard, brown, crinkled strips that looked like old leather. To cook, the dried beans soaked in cold water overnight, then went into a pot with a piece of salt pork and simmered for 3 to 4 hours. The long cooking time released a deep, concentrated flavor that fresh green beans never produce. No canning, no freezing, no electricity required. The method worked exactly the same in 1960 as it had in 1760, and the dish was on winter tables from October through March. Number 7. Ramps. Ramps are wild leeks, Allium tricoccum, that grow in the moist forest soil of the Appalachian Highlands. In West Virginia, they come up in April near creek banks and under hardwood trees. The leaves are broad, flat, and dark green. The smell is raw garlic crossed with onion, concentrated to a point that most people outside the region find extreme. For mountain families in the 1960s, ramps were the first fresh food of the year after a winter of dried and preserved goods. The standard preparation was to fry them in a skillet with bacon grease until wilted, then scramble eggs into the pan. School districts in Appalachian counties had an informal policy of letting students who showed up smelling of ramps go home for the day. Richwood, West Virginia, has held its Feast of the Ramps and Ramp Festival every spring since 1938. Number 6. Poke salad. Pokeweed grows wild across rural Appalachia. The mature plant is toxic. The roots, berries, and mature leaves contain compounds that cause severe illness. Mountain families in West Virginia harvested only the youngest leaves in early spring before the plant grew past about 6 inches. The young leaves boiled in a pot of water for 10 minutes, drained, then boiled twice more with fresh water each time. After 3 full boils, the leaves were safe to eat. They went into a skillet with hot bacon grease, fried until soft, and served with scrambled eggs. In the 1960s, poke salad was a spring staple in the poorer counties of West Virginia. Free food that cost only the labor of picking and the knowledge of how to prepare it safely. Number 5. Cracklin' cornbread. Every fall, West Virginia farm families killed a hog. The fat was trimmed, cut into cubes, and rendered in a large pot. As the fat melted out, the skin left behind turned crisp and golden. Those were the cracklings. The liquid fat that drained off was lard, stored for cooking throughout the year. Cracklin' cornbread used the same base as any cornbread: white cornmeal, buttermilk, egg, baking soda, and salt, with cracklings stirred in by the handful before the batter hit the hot skillet. They sank into the bread as it baked and turned even crispier in the oven, releasing fat into the surrounding bread. This was the cornbread families made right after the hog killing in October or November, when the cracklings were fresh. It went with nothing except a bowl of beans. Number 4. Kilt lettuce. Kilt is the old Scots-Irish word for killed, used in cooking to mean wilted completely by heat. The technique arrived in West Virginia with the Scots-Irish settlers of the 1700s and was already old when it got here. Fresh leaf lettuce from the garden, picked young in April, washed and torn into a bowl. Bacon fried in a heavy pan until crisp. Cider vinegar poured into the hot fat, a pinch of sugar, sliced green onions, then the whole hot dressing poured over the raw lettuce while still sputtering. The heat wilted the leaves in seconds, coating them in a sharp, smoky dressing. Bacon crumbled on top. The dish existed only in spring, only as long as young lettuce was available, and had to be eaten immediately. Number 3. Chow chow. At the end of every growing season, whatever the garden had left over went into the chow chow pot. Green tomatoes, surplus cabbage, onions, bell peppers, hot peppers, corn, and green beans too tough for fresh eating. Everything chopped fine, salted overnight, then combined with a brine of cider vinegar, sugar, dry mustard, mustard seed, turmeric, and celery seed. Packed hot into glass canning jars and sealed for the winter. No two families made identical chow chow. Proportions shifted depending on what grew well that year. In West Virginia, chow chow was not a side dish, but a condiment spooned directly over the soup beans. The vinegar cut through the fat of the pork and the starchiness of the beans. Jars lined the cellar shelves from October until the following June. Number 2. Stack cake. The apple stack cake is an Appalachian invention with no equivalent in American baking. The layers were made from a stiff dough of flour, butter, sorghum molasses, eggs, and buttermilk, closer to thick cookie dough than cake batter. Each portion rolled flat and baked in a cast-iron skillet until set firm and dry, somewhere between a ginger snap and a soft cracker. The filling was dried apples simmered in water until broken down, then spiced with cinnamon, ginger, and sugar. That filling spread thick between every layer, and the whole cake wrapped and left to stand for at least 24 hours. During that time, the moisture from the apple filling moved into the dry layers and softened them from the inside. In the 1960s, the tradition at community gatherings was for each neighbor to bring a single baked layer. A 12-layer cake meant 12 neighbors came. It was called the poor man's wedding cake. Number 1. Fried apple pies. Apples were dried every fall across West Virginia, sliced thin, spread on screens, and left in the sun until they shriveled to pale, leathery discs. Packed into cloth bags and stored through the winter, they kept for months. Fried apple pies were built for a lunch bucket or a field hand. No oven required. The crust was biscuit dough, flour, lard, buttermilk, salt, rolled out and cut into circles about 5 inches across. A spoonful of dried apple filling, simmered with cinnamon, brown sugar, and nutmeg until thick, went onto 1/2 of each circle. The dough folded over and the edges crimped shut with a fork. The pies went into a skillet with an inch of hot lard and fried 3 to 4 minutes per side until deep golden brown. Families in Logan, Mingo, and Wyoming counties made these every week from October through March. No plate needed, no fork, no table. These 10 dishes did not disappear because West Virginia families stopped being hungry. They disappeared because dried beans became optional when canned beans cost 50 cents, because the hog killing stopped when the freezer arrived, because foraging seemed unnecessary when the grocery store opened on the main road. The knowledge of how to string leather breeches or prepare poke salad safely is mostly gone now. If you grew up with any of these on your table, leave a comment. These are real dishes from real kitchens, and that history is worth keeping.